Earth was dying. The blue planet, once full of life, was now covered in fire and smoke. Oceans boiled. Cities turned into ruins. Tall buildings lay broken. Skies were black. The sun no longer shined the same way. People were running, hiding, crying. Nobody knew where it started. Some said it was an alien virus. Some said it was a weapon from the stars. But it didn't matter anymore. Earth had fallen. Billions were gone in days. Humanity was on the edge of extinction. But deep inside an old bunker, under the ground of what was once New York, a child sat alone. Her name was Lyra. She was only 7 years old. Her parents were gone. The machines in the bunker were still working, powered by old solar cells. There was food, water, air, but she was alone. Just her and the bunker's AI, named Eli. Lyra, the AI said softly, "It is time." Lyra looked at the screen. Her small hands trembled. "Are you sure someone will hear me?" she asked. "I do not know," Eli replied. "But it is the only hope left." Lyra wiped her tears and stood in front of the camera. The AI started the recording. A small light blinked. Lyra spoke. "If anyone out there can hear me, please, help us. My name is Lyra. I am from Earth. Everyone is gone. We didn't want this. We didn't start this. We were just living. Please, don't let us disappear." She paused, then whispered, "Please, don't let me die alone." The AI sent the message. It was coded in every known galactic language. It was sent again and again, across space, through every satellite, signal, and probe still working. It became known as the last cry. Far away, on the other side of the galaxy, the message reached the Galactic Council. A group of alien races sat in a tall silver tower that floated in space. They had watched Earth before. They knew about humans. But they did nothing when Earth began to fall. Now, as the message played, the council listened. On the screen, they saw the little girl. Her voice echoed in their hall. Some were silent. Some laughed. A single human child? Is this what remains of the mighty Earth? One alien said with a grin. They cried before. They always cry, another said. But they never win. But one alien, old and quiet, did not laugh. He was from a race that had once met humans long ago. He remembered their eyes, their strength, their will. "They will not stay silent," he said slowly. "Not forever." Back on Earth, the bunker lights flickered. The AI, Eli, was dying. Systems were failing. Lyra lay curled up in a blanket, cold, hungry, her eyes half closed. But the message kept sending, over and over, into the stars. And somewhere, far beyond the planets, something heard it. Not the council, not the laughing aliens. Something else. Old satellites hidden by humans. Ships without names. Codes buried in ice. A secret network. The message reached the dark places of space where the others waited. They were not leaders. They were not heroes. They were the last humans, the forgotten ones, hiding in space, watching, waiting. They had left Earth before the fall, not for escape, but for revenge. And when they heard the cry of a little girl named Lyra, they knew it was time. Aboard one silent ship near Pluto, a human captain opened his eyes. He had been in cryo-sleep for years. The AI on his ship spoke. Message received. Child. Earth. Status. Critical. Orders. The captain stood slowly. His face was rough. Scared. Cold. He whispered, "Wake them all." Across deep space, other ships blinked to life. Lights turned on. Weapons warmed up. Old codes ran again. Humanity was not gone. It had been sleeping. And now, the stars would remember their name. The silence of deep space was broken. From the dark corners of the solar system, signals flashed like sparks in the void. Hidden stations near the asteroid belt came online. Ancient satellites blinked for the first time in decades. Messages, old and encrypted, passed between unseen machines. The Ghost Protocol had been activated. In the outer rim, near Neptune's orbit, a ship the size of a city began to awaken. It had no name, no flag, and no signal. It was painted black, with no windows, and no light escaped from it. Inside, deep in the ship's cold steel corridors, machines buzzed to life. Cryopods hissed open. Inside one of them, a woman gasped for air. Her name was Commander Aorail. She had been asleep for 20 years. Her eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the soft red glow of the room. "Status," she said, her voice weak but steady. "Humanity has fallen," replied the AI on board. "Message received from Earth. Survival probability of remaining population, 0.2%. Source: child. Identity: unknown." Aya sat up. She remembered Earth. The people. The sky. The oceans. The laughter. Now, only ash remained. She placed her feet on the cold floor and looked out at the vast, dark screen before her. "Send the signal," she said. "Wake the fleet." All across the solar system, old ships hidden in the shadows responded. They had been built in secret, not for colonization or peace, but for war. Ships without IDs, crews trained to fight in silence. A hidden force humanity had created during its last great war, and then buried when peace returned. No one had expected to use them again. But now, they were the only answer. The Galactic Council still laughed. The message from Earth had spread quickly through the higher worlds. It became a joke on news streams. The child's tearful voice was played again and again as background sound to memes and comedy broadcasts. "She wants help. Send her a tissue," said one alien news host. "Earth should have stayed in its corner," said another. But not everyone laughed. In the deep sectors of the galaxy, where rules were different and laws were written in blood, some listened closely. Pirates, smugglers, bounty hunters, old soldiers, mercenaries who had once fought against humans, or beside them. They remembered the old wars. They remembered how humans fought when they were cornered. And they remembered something else. Humans never died quietly. A week later, a scout ship from the Council was flying near Saturn. The mission was simple: check for human survivors, make a full scan, and leave. But something went wrong. Very wrong. The ship entered Saturn's orbit and vanished. No signal, no beacon, no debris. Just gone. Panic spread through the Council's intelligence branches. Another ship was sent, this time with escorts. They vanished too. Suddenly, rumors filled the stars. Whispers of black ships with no names, of lasers that left no trace, of entire stations disappearing overnight, of planets with cities turned to glass. The ghost fleet had begun to move. Back on Earth, the bunker where Lyra lived grew cold. The AI Elide was breaking down. Power was failing. Oxygen levels were dropping. Food was nearly gone. But Lyra did not cry anymore. She sat quietly, drawing pictures in the dust. She spoke to Eli, even when he didn't reply. "I think someone heard me," she said softly. "I had a dream. There were ships, big ships, and people in armor. I think they were humans. They had stars on their chests." The light above her blinked once, then again. Then a new voice echoed through the bunker's speakers. "Lyra, this is Ghost Fleet Command. We heard you." The screen came to life. A face appeared. Commander Aorail. Her expression was calm, but behind her eyes burned something powerful. Hope and fury. "You're not alone," she said. "We are coming home." Across the galaxy, the balance of power shifted. Alien leaders called emergency meetings. Fleet commanders reviewed human battle data from the past, now realizing how little they had truly understood Earth's strength. They had mocked the child's cry. Now, They feared the silence that followed it, because it meant humanity was preparing. They had not disappeared. They had gone dark. And now, they were waking up. Space near Saturn had become a graveyard of silence. No ships entered. None left. The Galactic Council had quietly marked the zone as under investigation, but everyone knew the truth. Something was there. Something that didn't want to be found. In a hidden orbit between Saturn's rings, thousands of black ships floated, perfectly still, almost invisible. They reflected no light, made no sound, and showed no life. But inside, they were full of movement, of quiet breathing, of steel footsteps, of war machines waking up. This was not a fleet built for defense. This was a weapon. Each ship was packed with AI-guided drones, railguns, cloaking systems, and ancient human tech that even modern aliens couldn't understand. Ships had no windows, no names, just numbers, and one purpose: revenge. Commander Aya stood in the command bridge of the lid ship. The room was small, no fancy decorations, just screens, controls, and cold steel walls. "Fleet status?" she asked. "All units active," the AI replied. "Total operational ships, 2,943. Cloak engaged. Weapons online. Drones charged. Human soldiers, 17,000 awake. 113,000 in cryo." She nodded. "Begin Ghost Protocol. Phase 1. Instantly, parts of the fleet broke off, vanishing into the dark. Their engines made no sound. Their movements were like shadows. They slipped past moons, drifted near asteroid fields, and entered alien systems quietly. They did not attack. Not yet. They watched. They listened. They gathered data. They made the galaxy nervous. On a mining colony near the edge of Council space, a cargo ship docked as usual. But it carried no cargo. It carried humans. Dressed like traders, they entered the colony, set up scanners, and disappeared within hours. A day later, the colony's command center received a single message: "We see you. You didn't help her. Remember that." Then every screen went black. Data lost. Systems wiped. Nothing stolen. Only broken. The same thing happened in 5 more colonies. Then 10. Then 20. Not one life was taken. But every system was burned. Every camera destroyed. Every sensor blinded. It was not war. It was a warning. Meanwhile, the council was split. Some members wanted to negotiate. Others wanted to crush Earth once and for all. They didn't understand how humans were doing this. Earth was supposed to be dead. Their tech was outdated. Their population was gone. But something was different now. They were smarter, quieter, crueler. A council admiral, High Speaker Vrentok, stood before the chamber. His voice echoed through the glass halls. "We must show strength. These ghosts, these humans, must be hunted. If we fear them now, they will rule us tomorrow." Many clapped. Many cheered. But one old alien did not move. He had fought humans in the Great Void War, long ago. He knew what came next. And he was afraid. Back near Earth, the bunker lights flickered. Lyra was still there, wrapped in her blanket, humming softly. She had food again. Warmth. New power systems had been dropped quietly by a stealth drone. The air was clean. She didn't know how, but she smiled now. Sometimes she spoke to the new AI voice that visited her. "Will they really come?" she asked one night. "They are already here," it replied. And it was true. Humans were on the moon again. Not in suits, but in armor. On Mars, they had opened old bases. The AI cities under ice were alive once more. Hidden machines beneath Earth's oceans were reawakening. They had planned for this. Earth's leaders had seen the signs long before the fall, so they had buried their strength. And now, they were digging it up. Commander Aya looked at the star map. Red dots marked alien command posts, fuel stations, weapon labs. One by one, they were being mapped, scanned, and tracked. It wasn't time to attack yet, but it would be soon. Then she opened a private channel. "Connect me to the circle," she said. The screen flickered, then showed 5 faces, men and women from old governments, secret organizations, black ops groups that no longer existed. They had no names now, only missions. "The child's message reached us all," Aya said. "And the council has ignored it," one of the shadowy figures replied. "Then it's time to remind them who we are." Commander Aya's eyes burned with cold fire. "Not who we are," she said. "What we've become." The first strike came without warning. In a quiet system near the edge of council space, a military research station disappeared. One moment it stood floating near a red dwarf star, protected by shields, patrols, and AI defenses, and the next, it was gone. Not exploded. Erased. Every trace of its energy signatures vanished. Scans showed only empty space. No debris. No signals. No survivors. The council called it a black hole event. But the soldiers in the shadows knew better. It was humanity's message. In deep space, aboard the lead Ghost Fleet vessel, Commander Aya watched the feed in silence. Around her, officers monitored dozens of data streams. Alien comms, civilian traffic, military alerts. "Status?" she asked. "Phase 2 complete. 6 enemy outposts down. No alerts raised. No visual contact. Casualties? 0. Aya leaned forward. Her hands gripped the cold edge of the table. Begin Phase 3. Across the stars, humans began to rise from myth to nightmare. In the outer colonies of the Ralkari species, farmers whispered of black ships in the clouds. On the trade routes between the twin moons of Yorthan, freighters vanished mid-jump. No explosion. No SOS. Just silence. Children of alien worlds began drawing humans in their dreams, tall figures with glowing eyes and cold armor. Ghost stories spread. Some aliens fled their posts. Others stayed silent. No one wanted to be next. But inside the council chamber, pride still roared louder than fear. High Speaker Vrentok slammed a claw on the table. "We are the dominant force in this galaxy. We crushed the insect empires. We silenced the storm worlds. Do you think we'll fall to the ashes of a dead world?" Others agreed. They sent more scout fleets, more patrols, more drones. None returned. It wasn't a war. It was a lesson. Humanity wasn't just fighting back. They were showing the galaxy how little it had ever understood them. On a frozen moon near the core systems, a hidden council data vault held ancient records, old human war footage, psychological studies, and transcripts from past battles. A young alien analyst studied them for days. He didn't sleep. His eyes grew wide with horror as he read what the humans had survived. Nuclear winters, orbital bombardments, bioweapons, even wars with each other that nearly tore their planet apart. They were used to pain. They were made in it. His report was brief. They do not think like us. They do not fight like us. They do not fear like us. And they do not forget. The council buried the report. But it was already too late. Lyra was no longer alone. Inside the bunker, a projection now floated. An AI companion from Ghost Fleet. It helped her read books, fix equipment, and kept her warm with heating coils built from scrap tech. She called it Star. One evening, she looked up at it and asked, "Will I ever see the sky again?" Star paused. Its form flickered like a soft blue flame. "You will," it said, "and not just the sky of Earth. You will see stars that no human child has seen before, because you are the one they fight for." Lyra smiled, not fully understanding. But her heart felt safe again. In a secret meeting aboard a hidden base inside an asteroid field, Commander Aya stood with 6 elite soldiers. Each had a scar, a story, and a reason to fight. "Targets confirmed," she said. pulling up a galactic map. We hit their military fuel depots, wipe their AI archives, disable their communication hubs. All at once. No survivors. No traces. One soldier chuckled. The council thinks we're angry. Another nodded. They think we're emotional. Hurt. Desperate. Commander Aya's voice turned sharp. We're not emotional. We're focused. We are not here for revenge. We are here for balance. And with that, the operation began. Dozens of strikes. Precise. Silent. Unstoppable. A communication tower melted from the inside. A weapons lab imploded from a gravity mine. A clumbing center filled with elite alien soldiers was locked from the outside and jettisoned into a sun. The council was too slow. By the time they realized what was happening, half their hidden infrastructure was gone. And then finally, they saw it. A symbol painted in burning light across the sky of their capital world. A simple Earth child's drawing of a blue planet, with 2 words beneath it. We remember. The silence of the galaxy's council chambers had never been so oppressive. High Speaker Vrentok paced back and forth, his 4 arms shaking with frustration. This is impossible, he roared. They should have been broken by now. We've struck them 1,000 times, and they keep coming back. Around him, the council members remained still, each one grappling with the same question. How had humans, a species thought lost, become so powerful? The reports were consistent, haunting in their simplicity. Human forces are invisible, efficient, and ruthless. Another report flashed onto the central screen. Human fleets have now disabled 9 more council colonies. Losses total: 1.5 million civilians, 0 human casualties. The council remained silent. Vrentok's voice dropped to a growl. They are no longer reacting to us. They are planning. They have learned. On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Aya was calm. It was what she had trained for, what the Ghost Fleet had been designed for. A strategy of patience. And with each victory, her forces grew bolder. They were now positioned just beyond the Council's safe zones, with thousands of drones, ships, and sleeper agents scattered across the galaxy's underbelly. Aria stared at the holographic map in front of her. The more she looked at it, the clearer the path became. The Council was powerful, yes, but in their arrogance, they had overlooked the one thing that humans did better than anyone else. They adapted. And now, it was their turn to strike first. On a mining moon, a small human ship, barely a freighter, docked in secret. Its cargo hold wasn't filled with ore or supplies. Instead, it carried data, specially coded information. Lyra was on board. She had never seen a starship up close before. The hum of the engine beneath her feet was comforting, its steady pulse the heartbeat of humanity's last hope. She had been in the dark for so long, alone in the bunker, but now she was part of something bigger. She wasn't just the last survivor of a dying world. She was humanity's message, the symbol of all they had endured and all they had become. The ship's AI, Star, kept her company. "Where are we going?" Lyra asked, her voice quiet but steady. "We are taking the final step, Lyra," Star replied. "Your message has been sent. Now we wait." For a long time, all Lyra could do was look out the viewport at the distant stars. She had dreamed of them as a child, but now, as the cold dark of space surrounded her, she felt a strange peace. Her world was gone. The people she had loved, gone. But she wasn't alone. She didn't know exactly where they were going, but she trusted in the message humanity had sent, and she knew they weren't going to let the galaxy forget them. Far from Earth, on the Council's war world, preparations were underway for an all-out response. The Council's fleets, once scattered and complacent, were now assembling. Hundreds of ships, armed to the teeth, moved into formation. They intended to crush the humans once and for all. But there was one problem. They had underestimated what they were facing. In the darkness, Commander Aya's fleet had already dispersed. Some ships moved silently into orbit around Council-controlled planets. Others, deep within asteroid fields, deployed thousands of surveillance drones that skimmed the atmosphere and eavesdropped on alien communications. Every conversation was recorded. Every movement was tracked. Aya's strategy was simple: divide, isolate, and conquer. The Council had spread itself thin, believing their influence was unchallenged. But humanity had learned how to turn the galaxy's vast emptiness into an advantage. While the Council prepared for direct confrontation, humans began striking at their very foundation. The Council's weaponry, once thought invincible, was now ineffective against humanity's guerrilla tactics. Each system they tried to secure was met with sabotage. Communication hubs were disabled, energy conduits severed. Rebellion spread like wildfire. And still, the Council was no closer to understanding their enemy. Lyra's ship moved swiftly through the cold, dark expanse. She had no idea of the scale of the war being waged across the stars. To her, it was just another journey, one step closer to something she didn't fully understand. "Star, why do they fear us so much?" she asked, staring out into the void. Star paused for a moment. "Because, Lyra, you are the last of your kind, and your people are never truly gone. They've always been at the edge of the universe, waiting to rise. When humans fight, they fight for more than survival. They fight for each other." Lyra thought about this, a quiet realization sinking in. Maybe this wasn't about her. Maybe this was about everything humanity had been through. All the years of survival, the wars, the losses, the victories. They had endured it all. And now, they were ready to make the galaxy remember. Meanwhile, the Council's military leaders gathered, frantic and desperate. "Every sector is compromised," said one officer. "We've lost control of vital resources. What are we waiting for?" Vrentok's gaze was cold. He had given the order for a direct assault. But now, doubt lingered. Something was off. He turned to the screen and called up the intelligence reports again. "Why haven't they attacked us directly? Why this slow burn? We've been at war with them before. They never fought like this. What is their endgame?" A quiet voice from one of the strategists answered, "They don't need to fight us directly, Speaker. They're making us fight ourselves." A deep, uncomfortable silence spread throughout the room. They had known about humanity's tactical genius, but never like this. They had awakened something in the humans, something primal, something far more dangerous than any enemy they had ever faced. The war had changed. It was no longer about planetary invasions or grand battles between fleets. The conflict had morphed into something much more insidious, something the Council had never anticipated. Humanity was not simply fighting for survival. They were rewriting the rules of war itself. On the outskirts of Council space, a new kind of battle was being waged, no longer in the bright, violent flash of explosions, but in the quiet shadows where decisions were made and plans were laid. Humanity's strength wasn't just in their numbers. It was in their ability to think like shadows, to strike without warning, to leave no trace but confusion in their wake. For every alien fleet that was mobilized, a dozen more human cells silently infiltrated alien-controlled space, leaving behind nothing but whispers of a ghostly presence. On the surface of icy moons, humans were activating forgotten tech, unlocking weapons and defenses that hadn't been seen in millennia. Entire systems were being reactivated, ready for humanity's vengeance. And still, the Council didn't understand. Vrentok sat in his command chair, feeling the weight of 1,000 years of power slipping from his grasp. He glared at the screens that flickered before him. The human fleet had disabled more than half of their outposts. Infiltrators had breached their defense lines. Civilian populations in several sectors were in open rebellion. And yet, nothing significant had been lost. Not yet. It was as if the humans were playing a game, and the Council had missed the first move. "We are being outplayed," Vrentok muttered, frustration clawing at him. He turned toward his subordinates, who were too afraid to meet his gaze. Do you understand? They are not making mistakes. They are baiting us. An officer finally spoke, her voice trembling. But why this? Why not just attack us outright? Vrentok stood up, his forearms clenched into fists. Because they know us better than we know ourselves. They are taking our pride, our arrogance, and turning it against us. The moment we retaliate, they will destroy us. Meanwhile, aboard the Ghost Fleet flagship, Commander Aya stood silently on the observation deck, watching the stars stretch out before her. The lights were dim, and the air was thick with the weight of unspoken strategy. "Status report," she asked, her voice steady and calm. "Phase 4 complete," came the reply. "All sleeper cells are in place. Civilian uprisings are now in full swing in 5 different sectors. Council supply lines are fragmented. Enemy fleets are on the move, but they are divided and scattered." Aya allowed herself a small nod. It was working. The human strategy was simple but effective. Create chaos, sow division, and force the Council into making desperate moves. They weren't just fighting to win. They were fighting to make the Council doubt itself, to make them question their entire system of power. "Activate the next phase," Aya said. "We begin the final push." In the heart of Council space, the turmoil was beginning to show. Civilian systems were in disarray. Alien fleets that once acted as a unified force were now breaking apart, each faction retreating to its own borders to protect its people. The grand structure of the Council was crumbling from within. And through all of this, humanity remained elusive, no longer the fractured, lost species they had once been. Now, they were an unstoppable force, a silent blade cutting through the heart of the galaxy. The Council tried to regroup, but every time they moved, the humans were one step ahead. Every fortress they built, every weapon they deployed, was undermined by humanity's swift and silent touch. The humans were everywhere. In a hidden control room on a moon far from the Council's seat of power, Lyra watched the unfolding events on the screens in front of her. She wasn't alone anymore. The crew of the ship that had rescued her had become her new family. Soldiers, engineers, scientists, all working together for one common cause. She had heard the stories, but only now did she fully understand the weight of the fight. "Star," she said softly, "what happens if they find us? If the Council comes here?" Star's voice answered, as calm and soothing as always. "They will never find you, Lyra. They will never find any of us." "But why? How is it possible?" Lyra asked, her voice full of awe and confusion. "Because," Star said, "we've learned how to make the galaxy our home. And now, the galaxy will never forget us." The days passed, and the strategy continued to unfold across the stars. For every Council fleet that moved to retaliate, humanity had already pulled back, hiding in plain sight, slipping into forgotten spaces where no one thought to look. Every time the Council thought they had cornered them, humanity had already slipped away. On one occasion, the Council dispatched an entire battle group to track down a fleet that had been making a slow retreat. They arrived, only to find the fleet had vanished without a trace. All that remained was an empty sector, silent, cold, and without answers. It was the perfect trick. By the time the Council had launched their ships into the final push, humanity had already disappeared into another sector, another space. They were ghosts. Aya's voice echoed in the bridge of the flagship. "They are moving into position," she said. "Now is the time." For the first time, the Council will know true fear. They will not know where the strike is coming from, but they will feel it. Back in the Council's War Council, the situation had become dire. Vrentok, once a symbol of power, now looked like a shell of himself. His once imposing stature was crumpled by the pressure of failing. The reports continued to stream in, losses, uprisings, divisions among their ranks. He slammed his fist on the table. Where is their leader? Where is the human that started all of this? No one answered. No one knew. It was as if the humans were nothing but whispers, coming and going, striking without warning. No face, no form, just a presence, an unstoppable force. Vrentok's eyes narrowed. They are not fighting us because they want to win. They are fighting us to make us remember. They want us to know what it feels like to be hunted. Humanity wasn't done yet. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were taking the galaxy back, and they weren't asking for permission. The final move had begun. Across the galaxy, the signs were clear. For the Council, everything had been building toward this moment, the culmination of years of arrogance, of underestimating a species they had written off as weak. They thought they knew what humans were. They thought they understood them. But now, the galaxy's rulers had no choice but to confront the truth. On the bridge of the flagship, Commander Aya stood in front of a holographic map, her eyes scanning the final positions of the fleet. Their plan had been set into motion, and the time for subtlety was over. The humans had one last strike to make. It would be the final blow that shattered the Council's stranglehold on the galaxy. Phase 5 is a go, Aya said, her voice steady but full of purpose. We hit the Council's core worlds. We disable their capital planet's infrastructure and cut off their communications permanently. This ends today. She turned to the crew gathered behind her. This is it. The Council won't have the strength to fight back. They've already failed. All we need to do is ensure they can never rebuild. One of the crew members, a grizzled officer who had been with Aya through countless missions, spoke up. And what if they try to retaliate? They still have fleets left. Aya's gaze never wavered. Let them come. We'll be waiting. On the other side of the galaxy, the Council was scrambling. The war that had raged for so long had reached its breaking point. Fleet after fleet had fallen. Supply lines were cut. Civilian uprisings were now open revolts. Every defensive measure they tried to deploy had failed, and every counterstrike they made only pushed humanity deeper into their territory. Vrentok, the High Speaker, paced back and forth, his mind racing. This can't be happening. They should be weak. They should have broken by now. He was wrong. The humans had never been weak. They were resilient. They were relentless. And they were everywhere. In the last week alone, the Council's most advanced military stations had been hijacked and turned against them. Every time they tried to strike back, it was as if they were always a step behind. Their most trusted allies were now defecting, and their enemies, once subdued, were rising up again, emboldened by the humans' victories. Vrentok knew that the galaxy had already begun to turn its back on the Council. Their power was crumbling. In a hidden bunker on a forgotten world, Lyra stood with the crew of her ship, now among the last members of humanity's resistance. She had never felt more connected to the fight. Her memories of the Earth, of the places and faces she had once known, had long faded. But now she felt a deep bond with every human that had ever fought. Every warrior, every survivor, every dreamer. Lyra, we're ready. Star's voice broke through her thoughts. Lyra turned, eyes shining with resolve. Let's finish this. As the ship's engines roared to life, Lyra felt a sense of destiny wash over her. Humanity wasn't fighting for a single world anymore. They were fighting for the entire galaxy. And this was the moment they would prove their worth. In the cockpit, she joined her crew, watching the monitors that showed their final destination, the Council's capital. It was the heart of the Empire, the nerve center of their power, and it was about to fall. Back on the Council's capital world, the final wave of the human assault was arriving. Thousands of ships, invisible against the starry backdrop of space, moved in perfect synchronization. The Council's fleet had assembled in a last-ditch effort to defend the heart of their empire, but it was too little, too late. They had been too arrogant, too sure of themselves, and now they would pay the price. The attack came in waves. The first strike was silent, hitting their communications networks with pinpoint precision. The second wave disabled their planetary defense systems, leaving the capital vulnerable. The third wave arrived just as the Council's fleet attempted to regroup, and it was devastating. Ghost fleet ships, armed with technology that had been hidden in the deepest corners of the galaxy, ripped through the enemy defenses like paper. Aya's voice came over the comms, her tone cold, final. This ends now. With that, the capital's primary defense shield fell, and a single wave of energy surged across the planet's surface. The capital world, the heart of the Council's power, was now at humanity's mercy. Vrentok stood in his war room, his hands shaking as he watched the holographic displays flicker with chaotic data. The Council was falling apart. There was nothing left to save. He could feel it in his bones. The empire he had fought so long to build was collapsing before his very eyes. They are unstoppable, he whispered, the weight of the words sinking in. He turned to his officers, who were too terrified to speak. You saw it, didn't you? The humans, they never needed to conquer us. They just needed us to destroy ourselves. A low growl rumbled in his chest. And we did. But it wasn't just the Council that was broken. It was the entire system they had built, the illusion of control they had so carefully cultivated. Humanity had torn that illusion apart, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but the raw truth of the galaxy's reality. The final blow came as Lyra's ship entered the atmosphere of the capital world. The sensors flickered as they locked onto their target, the central control hub, the very heart of the Council's command structure. With a flick of a switch, the ship unleashed its full force, a weapon of unimaginable power that only humans could have crafted in their darkest hours. The explosion was not just the end of a city, it was the end of an era. The Council's capital disintegrated in an instant, a shockwave of destruction that tore through the planet's surface. The message was clear: the galaxy would never be the same. On every world, across every star system, humanity's victory was felt. The Council, once an unshakable force, was now nothing more than a fading memory. The survivors of the old empire scattered, their authority gone, their structures collapsing. But the humans remained. They had endured. They had fought back. And now, the galaxy would know their name. Humanity wasn't the last to rise. They were the first to stand tall. And they were not going anywhere.